Okay, so today is, what is today? Thursday? Friday. Today is Friday, the 28th of April. And again, we missed our Friday beach thing. It's kind of hard to do when Serena has, work and stuff, but it's fine. Today has been largely laid back, I guess. Not a whole lot of exciting things have happened. I've just been taking care of some streaming things, some recording things, some editing things. And I guess to that effect, it hasn't been nearly as laid back as I want to make it sound like. And you might notice that I'm doing something different today. I am going to make dinner. Serena's coming back from work in about an hour, and I am going to make firecracker meatballs. And hopefully that'll be ready for her when she gets home. All right, so firecracker meatballs, very delicious. First and foremost, we need the rice cooker. And as you might imagine, since we need the rice cooker, we also need rice. Rice cooker, it makes sense. Beyond that, what else do we need? We need nothing out of the pantry. Oh, no, we need panko breadcrumbs. Meatballs tend to have breadcrumbs in them. And we are using ground turkey for this recipe. We have done this before with ground beef, we've done it with ground pork, but we found that as we age, those sorts of meats do not sit as well with our bellies as they once did when we were young, virile individuals. We also need some soy sauce, some sriracha, and some honey, and then also some sour cream from the fridge. And that should do it for that portion of the recipe. Incorrect, as he reads the final key ingredient, my favorite one, in fact, the mayonnaise. Mayonnaise. And now we move on to the vegetables, where we need scallions, ginger, and green beans. Perfect. Now that everything has been assembled or strewn about on the countertops, whatever word works best for you, we can now begin preheating the oven to a nice and toasty 425 degrees. I do this first. I mean, if you're following along with this recipe, you do as you will. I do it first because this oven takes freaking forever to preheat. Anything over 325 degrees feels like a freaking adventure just to get it through. In a second, we're going to get started on rice, because that also tends to take a while. Most likely, though, that is due to my own choices, because I like rice. I like extra rice. The more rice you cook, stay with me here, the more rice you cook, the longer it takes to cook. So, rice cookers are just amazing things though, really. It's like magic. You put rice in it, you put water in it, you press the button that says rice, and then there's rice, like half an hour later. It's incredible. I don't know what I would do without it. Well, actually, that's not true. I know what I would do without it. I would cook rice on the stove like a friggin' caveman, and it would take probably not much longer, but it would certainly be a lot more hands-on. And I think that when I can eliminate any amount of effort in the cooking process, well, that's a good thing. And like I said, press the white rice button. The rice has started. Now, unfortunately, this rice cooker doesn't offer up a time estimate for a while, so I don't actually know how long it's going to take, which is why I started sooner rather than later. It will, once it gets down to 9 minutes left, tell us that much, but until then, it's anyone's guess. Okay, this now brings us to the part of the cooking process where we deal with the vegetables. First and foremost, we're going to deal with the ginger, because we need exactly 1 thumb of it. And this strange creature has about 14 thumbs, so we're gonna pick our favorite one, which is right here off the tip. Snap that on off, and we are going to use a grater today. This will be the first time I've used a grater to produce shredded ginger or diced minced ginger. Ordinarily, I would just mince it with a blade, with a knife, but I've had some trouble with that. My wife, Serena, she's really good at it. I, however, contrary to popular belief, am not serene, so not quite as good. That Doesn't eliminate the first part of the process, of course, which is shaving the ginger. The root itself is quite tough on the outside and not necessarily something that I want to mix into my meatballs. The ginger root has been peeled, and now we need to chop up 2 scallions. 2 beautiful scallions too, look at that. Big delicious beast. They have already been washed, so we are good to go there to chop off the booties, the little tendrils, and then separate the whites from the greens. Now this is not necessarily just a color thing. If you have cooked with scallions before, you're well aware, it is a texture thing. So the scallion whites are going to be crunchy, they're going to be crispy, they're going to be less durable and slightly stronger all at once, if that makes sense. You'll know it when you cut into them. When you cut down the scallion itself from bottom to top, you'll feel with the blade a definitive change in the texture of the scallion, especially if you cut one scallion at a time. I'm not actually certain if you can see my hands down here, but I'm cutting both of them side by side because gosh darn it, I'm a man who loves his efficiency. And I already have kind of a feel for the scallion whites I've cut. God knows how many scallions in my lifetime. At least 4,000. Anyways, once these are properly cut, we are going to separate them and deal with them accordingly. According to this recipe, the scallion whites are going to mix in with the meatballs themselves, and the scallion greens are going to be reserved for topping the bowls with at the culmination of the cooking process. So there we have it. The greens are separated from the whites. They can be set aside, and now we can actually look in to the ground turkey right here. Already in its own convenient package, we can drop in the whites with it, and then we will also add in the ginger. We will grate it over top, and then we'll move on to the rest of the additions after that. My goodness gracious, that was efficient. I don't even know how long that took, but it can't have been more than like 15 seconds. Incredible. Okay, so that is all added in there. Now we need to add in panko, soy sauce, and some black pepper. The soy sauce needs to be just about 2 tablespoons. In fact, we need 1 1/3 tablespoon, which is kind of an interesting number, really. Oddly specific, if I must say. But hey, who am I to argue? I didn't write the recipe, all right? I didn't write a gosh darn thing. Soy sauce has been added, and the final ingredient is not panko, because I also need to add in black pepper, but I do need to add in panko, specifically a 1/4 cup, which I conveniently have right here. So we'll add that, and then the black pepper itself on this recipe is not specific, which is interesting to me, given the relative, over-specific nature of the soy sauce. But they recommend black pepper to taste. I taste black pepper, so I'll put it on there. And just a little sprinkle-dingle right there. A nice, pleasant dusting. Beautiful. Now that is complete. Now calls for the removal of the wedding ring. If you wear any sort of jewelry or anything at all, you probably don't want to be mixing raw meat with said hand. You also want to be sure to wash your hands. I did not show that on camera, but I washed my hands twice, in fact. And if you want to, wash yours thrice. So there's no such thing as too much hand washing, goodness gracious, unless of course you're rubbing the skin off the very bones. But then we've got a whole other host of problems in addition or alongside of the hand washing that you probably want to get evaluated. Alrighty, once the meat mixture has been mixture-meated, you then proceed to oil the pan so that you might place the meat and the green beans on top of it. Now, ordinarily, I like to use a paper towel to oil my pans. We're out of paper towels, so I'm not using one, I'm using my fingers, goodness gracious. I'm a barbarian, but hey, what are you gonna do, right? You gotta oil the pan somehow. I need to spread it around evenly so that it is as appropriately dictated on the recipe itself. lightly oiled. You can't have a big glob of oil. Now that that's taken care of, we can portion out some of washed green beans on the left half of the sheet here. Just enough for Serena and I. And then maybe a few more too. Now, depending on what sort of green beans you get, they might have their little appendages still on them, and you can eat those if you want. It's more or less a texture thing, and they can work very hard and stick-like, being, you know, they are sticks. So, you know, if you're into that, leave them on there. Serena and I, not so much, so we tend to pluck and or snip them off. And now for the meatballing. As you might imagine, we make balls out of the meat mixture. The recipe says that 1 pound of ground meat should net you 10 to 12 half-inch meatballs. Actually, 1.5-inch meatballs. So decently sized meatballs. I honestly try to lean towards the smaller end of that spectrum. When it says 1.5 inches, I probably lean closer to 1 inch. Because if I'm going to be eating meals with a meatball in them, I'd rather not have to take multiple bites of the meatball. Now, that's not to say that that doesn't still happen, right? But ideally, I'd like to keep it happening as less often as possible. And we are able to net a cool 16 meaty balls out of that meat. As you might imagine, now comes another round of hand washing. But I didn't have to tell you that now, did I? Now here is another optional step in addition to the adding of the black pepper into the meat mixture itself. It is the salting of the whole gosh darn kit and caboodle. So I choose option salt. What do we, Salt Baby is his name? Baby Salt? Baby salt, 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 sodium, baby, sodium, child, sodium, wild. Except not too wild, all right? Because we all got heart issues here. We're all in our 30s and we need to take things seriously enough to stay alive a little bit longer. All right, now that that is all kit darn caboodle, it's ready for the oven, where it goes into the 425 degree furnace for a whopping 14 to 16 minutes. On the top rack, we're going to lean towards the 16-minute side of that range because the green beans are plentiful and we tend to like them a little crispier. If you're not into crispy green beans, did I say something other than green beans? I might have said onions. I don't know. But green beans is the subject at hand, and if you like them crispy, then lean towards 16. Now, ordinarily is where I would start to clean this up. And in fact, I think I'm going to do that just a little bit. Okay, now we're done handling food and such. I can now again become merry, and we can work on the sauce, which is what all the rest of these assorted things I got out, like the sriracha, the honey, the sour cream, and mayonnaise are for. So we need 1.5 tablespoons of sour cream to start. They make that very easy to work with, do they? Okay. 1.5 tablespoons of sour cream complete. Then we need to work in 2 teaspoons of honey, not 2 tablespoons. Goodness gracious. Good thing I can read, otherwise, well, we'd have a very sweet sauce. Scooping honey out of a measuring spoon is even more difficult than sour cream, hence the application of the chopstick. Next, we need 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of sriracha, and 2 heaping tablespoons of mashed mayonnaise. Now, we mix all this together, and this produces the sauce that we will then drizzle over the meatballs and everything else once they are done cooking. You can see that the rice there has produced the 9-minute timer. It's going to finish just a hair before the meatballs and the green beans do, which is fine because we have to fluff the rice anyways. And this should all time up quite nicely. with Serena getting home. And that's gonna do it. Like I said, you toss this on the meatballs, you put it all together, and I'll show you a picture of that or a video of that at the very end here. But this is gonna be the end of the vlog. So, thank you so very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed yourself, and hey, try this out. You know, if you like meatballs, if you like rice, if you like trying new things, I think this is as good of an opportunity to do so as possible. So, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.